All right. I hear you. Okay.
So, wow, what a
Yeah.
these two
What a
chapters.
finale, huh?
I kept thinking, oh no, is it, yeah, I'm glad there's not a chapter 13 and 14. I couldn't take it. I mean, it's
Oh my gosh.
really something, Each gets more mysterious,
It did, but it was when you're prophesying about the end times, I mean, yeah, I think that there's how do you look at that, because
Yeah.
is it going to be our time? Is it going to be my children's time, my grandchildren? I mean,
Yeah.
but we're on the right side of justice, I guess.
Exactly.
What am
Yes.
I worried about?
Yeah, that's
But
right.
I have a much deeper respect for the Jewish community, because they just get, I mean, when you talk about the chosen one, they were the chosen one, but they're also,
Who wants to be the chosen one and go
Right.
through what they went through?
Exactly.
And are still going through.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
Pass through the countryside and destroy the temple, no problem. Let them deal with themselves. Oh, gee whiz. They suffer.
and then being told that of all the things that have happened to them, the worst has yet to come, like, even though followed by the best, but
Yeah.
yes.
It doesn't paint a pretty picture, for sure.
No.
Wow. So, but again,
And
there
then
was
to sit between Egypt and Syria. So they were constantly, whoever was winning, they were, it was back and forth from
right,
that.
right.
I mean, what a deal. I
Yeah.
can't even
Right.
imagine.
Yeah.
And Antiochus was just what I understood was he was a precursor for the Antichrist, or however you want to call it, that was to come. Like, I'm just almost like, and I always think of Hitler too. I mean, Hitler was just a part of that, I don't know. I just felt like for our times, how gradual that was, and how I could never understand how a community could get behind all of the hate that was involved in that. I just couldn't understand it.
And it went very quickly. I read a book that was written by a Jewish rabbi, and that Hitler thing, it was amazing how fast that could happen in a country with very, very, very smart people like those Germans. They were very smart, and all of a sudden they all, I mean,
It was crazy.
long. Yeah.
It was crazy. Mm-hmm.
But I happen to have some some tie to German people, and
Yeah. Just like,
And I don't know anybody smarter than Marion. There you go.
no, the
They're
thing
smart.
is, my old landlord, when I was in Heidelberg, his father did not believe in Hitler, and he actually made friends with the Russians. And after the war, the Russians came and actually helped him out,
right.
So the thing is that, when you control all the media, as does Putin,
Mhm.
you control all the media and all the information that's going out to the people and so forth. It's very easy to lead people in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we have modern, we have contemporary examples of that. We got one going on right now.
Yeah.
Because of, I'm reading that the further the Russian people get into this war, and the more that Putin tells them that this is a holy crusade, the more they believe it. So, and this hadn't even been a year yet.
A year today or something,
It's year today, exactly.
or
23rd.
this week or something. Yeah.
Wow.
So the thing is that if you had, we have social media now, You know, if they'd had social media in 1933, who knows how fast it would have gone, you know?
Yeah.
But the German people were in a position whereby they were looking for somebody because things were not going well, you know. Things were not going well in the Depression. Things were really tough, and they needed they were looking for somebody that could lead them out of that. And Hitler just came along right.
Yeah, right time, right place.
So the thing is that we're all it's very easy to mislead a population, ours included, you know,
Oh, yeah.
with some
Yeah.
so yeah, it's an interesting study for sure.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we have a kind of a snapshot. I would say that, you know, if you mentioned that before, the idea of a personification of evil. I'd say Hitler fell into that pretty easy.
Mhm.
I say Antiochus Epiphanes,
Yeah.
that pretty well, personification of evil, you know, and they could be deemed antichrists because they stood for everything else other than what Christ stands for. So, you know, you know, as history as we proceed through history, we may see these personifications of evil arise,
Yeah.
you know, over time. And they just keep coming, you know, unfortunately. So that's the way it is. But we have a snapshot of what was going on in that time. And their personification of evil was I see Antiochus Epiphanes, and he represented what was going to happen at the end times. You know.
Mhm. Yeah, and what I love is that, and then at the end, he did not. He lost.
Exactly.
He lost. He lost.
He did.
And just as the one who precedes him or the one who follows him is going, you know, God will prevail. And I love Michael the Archangel is right there. I
Right
mean,
there,
I was like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, there he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
And,
that's right.
and I think about how much we learn about him and
Sure.
how, you know, is that the reason? Because I loved it with his sword and, you know, this beautiful archangel to say, I'm here to advocate for you. God has sent me. I mean, it's just such a beautiful, you know, it helps me understand the role of the saints, the role of those angels so much more now. So for me anyway, so.
Sure. Well, they
I
personify.
read that Antiochus was like a trailer in a movie.
Yes. And they
That's
talk
right, yeah.
about that. You're
That's right,
right.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
is how the movie plays out.
Yeah,
And
sure.
we're getting this part. Yes. I love that you said
Yeah.
that because I heard that too. I heard that too.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true. So, well, we're getting our taste of it, you know, biblically anyhow,
Yes.
and
So
learning
great.
about it for, you know, as we proceed into the future.
Okay. So we ended, I guess, with Daniel 11:1. And now we start with Daniel 11:2, right? Well, it says,
Yes.
looking at-
That's correct. Yes.
okay, so would you like to start?
I will. Sure.
Okay.
Okay. So, okay. Number one, why do you suppose the Lord has given such a detailed account of some 320 years of Near Eastern history contained in Daniel 11:2-35, starting from the time of the Jews' restoration to the land of Canaan? There's a twofold reason for this lengthy, detailed panorama of history dealing with that period of time extended from the return of the Jews to Palestine from their Babylonian captivity. The first purpose is to ensure the people of God of their Lord's sovereign control over history and all the events of history, even those events that appear to be only detrimental to the welfare of his people. By giving to his people a detailed description of these future events, the Lord is assuring them that indeed he is the God who reigns over history and controls history for the accomplishment of his divine purpose. Another reason for this detailed panorama is to warn his people of the dire consequences that result when they seek to assert themselves, taking matters into their own hands rather than trusting in the Lord their God and waiting upon him to fulfill his promises and good purpose. I would say that's true. I mean, he's that what he's saying here, that he is the God who reigns over history and controls history for the accomplishment of his divine purpose, which I certainly believe in. And I can see why they would present that.
Mhm, mhm.
And then
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, so.
sure. But when
At
they
least- yeah.
assert themselves into matters into their own hands, rather than trusting in the Lord God and waiting upon him to fulfill his promises, that's a little more iffy. I mean,
Yeah, that kind of confuses me just a little bit. I don't quite get that part.
yeah. Well,
I got the first part.
I can see it though, but the thing is that when do you assert yourself and when you don't?
Yeah,
That's the question. I mean, if you're God's people, there's certain times that you're supposed to assert yourself, and there's certain times when you're supposed to let God do the work, and that is not easy.
Sure. And I think, I mean, the way that this gentleman is saying that, what I'm looking at, because at first I think assert yourself, of course we assert ourselves all the time, but even more specifically taking matters into your own hands. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
I get that. I just thought that, rather than trusting in the Lord God, and but again, what's when we put our faith aside and decide to take things into our own hands. I mean, there's many times where I'll pray to God to help me, and then it's almost like I take it back to try to do it for myself, and it's like,
yeah, sure.
so what
I-
is that?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Yeah, I mean, it can be confusing for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I think there's certain times that the Lord wants you to act, but he wants you to act as he would have you act, rather than take things into your own hands.
Sure. And and I think about when the Jews were out, in the desert with Moses for 40 years. And, he goes up on the mountain and they're waiting for him. And he comes back with the tablets, but, they had made a god. They were already acting, foolish, and he was very upset. They were, what is this gold that you are worshiping now? What are you doing? But they've been out there a long time. I would imagine they just got, how long do we have to wait? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, his chosen people have gone through so much, and they continue to go through so much.
Yeah.
I think I find it very, very difficult that to just the backlash of, I know the Jewish community, at least my understanding is, when in New York, it's almost like people walk around them. You had a great respect for them. And now it's almost like they're on the attack again, at least lately they have been. And then Israel and again, the Palestine, and it's just so, and they've been doing this for 2,000 years.
That's right.
It just never ends. I just don't know how much patience does God want them to have. I guess till the end of time.
But if you look at it, there was no Jewish state until like 1946.
Yeah.
There was nothing. There was nothing. There was nothing
Right.
Jews to
Right.
identify with.
I mean, and they were being, because I would understand it was like 48, and even and there was something specific about that today. They said even when they didn't have a land, people were attacking them. I mean, they just can't win.
For sure, yeah.
And then they finally get this little small piece, the size of Dallas, I think. It's not a very big part. And now it's just,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
These poor people.
Yeah, it's not a good situation.
Yeah, and the minute that America turns their back on them, I hope they don't, but I see so much more about the Palestinians. I'm thinking, and very anti-Semitic. I learned today that anti-Semitism is not just related to anti-Jewish. It's the region or something. But I might be misquoting that. But I hear more of that now, and I'm thinking, wasn't ever like that. So that's what scares me. That's the part that starts to scare me. So
Well, Joanna, Pam and I, who are senior to you,
this is true.
we can tell you a little bit about anti-Semitism. It's been going on.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's just sad. It's really sad. It's really, really, really sad, you know.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
is God trying to expose us to something? I don't know. I mean, I would have never thought to read Daniel. Never would have thought to read it.
No.
And oh my gosh, it's opened up so much. It just has opened up so much. It's just, isn't it amazing?
It is. It is.
But one of many Bible, chapters, and God is speaking to us. So I believe that. I believe that we're supposed to learn something. So, yeah. Okay. Pam, would you like to do number two?
Sure. How are the people of God described in this lengthy narrative? In those times, many will stand against the king of the south. Also, the violent men among your people will rebel in an effort to fulfill the vision, but they will fail. He will send armed forces to desecrate the sanctuary, the place of refuge. They will take away the daily sacrifice and set up in its place the abomination that causes desolation. By means of persuasive words, he will cause those who have transgressed against the covenant to become apostates. But the people who know their God will be strong and take action against him. Those who are wise among the people will instruct many. Though for a time they will fall by the sword, or be burned, or be captured, or be plundered. Now, as they fall, they will receive a little help. That's from the Maccabees, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And many will join themselves with them, but not sincerely. Some of those who are wise shall fall in order to refine them, purge them, and make them pure for the end time, because the end is still to come at the appointed time. In verse 14, Daniel is informed that at one point during this period of history, quote, the violent men among your people will rebel in an effort to fulfill the vision. Verses 31-35 give the account of a time when the king of the north, that is the king of Syria, will vent his fury against the Holy Covenant and take action against it. He will return and show favor to those who forsake the Holy Covenant. He will send armed forces to desecrate the sanctuary, but the people who know their God will be strong and take action against him. Those who are wise among the people will instruct many. Though for a time they will fall by the sword. Note, the little help mentioned in verse 34 is referring specifically to a contingent within the community of God's people who would seek to deliver Israel from their oppressor. So,
Yeah.
Okay, I read something pretty interesting about the wise. In fact, it is said that that the wise may refer to the people that actually wrote this chapter.
I read the same thing.
Yeah,
I read this. I didn't write. Sorry. Yeah, I read that too somewhere.
But the thing is that what I thought was interesting is that I wrote it down. That it says, and this is when we get further along in the next group of questions, but it says that it says here in Daniel 1:3, those who are wise, and this is talking about those wise people again, shall shine like the brightness of the heavens, and those who turn many to righteousness shall shine like stars forever and ever.
Yeah,
that the wise, this is a likeness to the suffering servant in Isaiah 53. How does it go? Where the suffering servant. I used to. I know that Isaiah 53 by heart. But this was the group that, and it could have meant, and if we remember Isaiah, it means either the Jews that were left or Jesus that took sin upon themselves
Mhm.
and did not respond. They absorbed the sin. And so the idea is that this group of the wise may consider, they may consider the ones that they will absorb this evil and provide relief.
And Daniel was considered one of these wise men, right? Is that right?
It doesn't. I mean, the commentators, as I said, they may have been, a segment of the priesthood, that existed at that time. That's kind of idea. That's kind of what I got.
Uh-huh.
But they considered themselves as a group to be the suffering, possibly the suffering servant. They were taking the likeness to that was prophesied in Isaiah. We're the suffering servant that's taking sin upon ourselves, and perishing as a result, but we will come back because of, our sacrifice. So I thought that was kind of interesting, that parallel.
Okay. So number 3,
Okay.
what are we told about this, about some of the people of God in verse 14, printed above under question 2? What will be the result of their action? Verse 14 speaks of a time when the violent men in Israel shall take matters into their own hands in an effort to fulfill the vision, but they will fall. That is to say, some within Israel would resort to violent means in an effort to bring about the liberation of Israel from pagan domination and establish the kingdom of God. At this particular time, the people of Israel found themselves under Egyptian rule, but several uprisings within Egypt itself served to weaken its power. These internal uprisings inspired some of the Jews in Palestine to rebel against their Egyptian overlords. But this Jewish rebellion, led by Tobias, would not result in independence, but in trouble. Having rebelled against Egypt, the Jews looked to Syria for favor and protection, but eventually the Syrian protection will become far more threatening and oppressive than the former Egyptian occupation. Exposition of Daniel, H.C. Leopold, pages 487 to 490. Thus, taking matters into their own hands, these Jewish leaders did not fulfill the vision. On the contrary, they fell.
Well, they did take things into their own hands. I guess they got tired of being ruled by the Egyptians and rebelled against them, and then found themselves in a situation whereby Syria moved in and eventually came to rule them.
I know, but these poor people, if I'm understanding this right from the different commentary I read, it just went back and forth and back and forth.
I know.
That went on for 130 years or something. And whoever, if it was Egypt or Syria, whoever was in the north or the south, whoever was control, they were battering Palestine or that area that was right in between the two of them every single time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just God.
Joanna, do me a favor. Would you look up on your device there, Pax Romana, PAXROMANA. That was a time, and this goes back to my study when I was in high school in Latin, my Latin studies. There was a time when there was a period of, I don't know, 1,000 years, 500 years, whatever it is, where there were no wars. And I was trying to think, it just popped into my mind. I said, well, why are these people fighting back and forth? I thought the Romans had control over everything, and that they had this Pax Romana where there were no wars during that particular period of time.
The Roman peace. Yep. Refers to the time period 27 BCE to 180 CE in the Roman Empire. The 200-year period saw unprecedented peace and economic prosperity throughout the empire, which spanned from England in the north to Morocco in the south and Iraq in the east.
Okay.
Wow.
So this would have occurred before the Pax Romana,
Mhm.
you know,
Because that's after, that sounds afterwards. Yeah.
or after the,
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
the Pax Romana occurred after this.
Mhm.
But they had a period of, I remember that period of time. I said, well, why, you know, everybody's fighting like crazy, you know, and I thought that the Romans had everything under control. I think it maybe not.
Yeah, I read somewhere today they were talking about, when Alexander the Great was, ruling, and, he pretty much left the Jewish community alone. And there was a big question, like, why? What was the reason? And what happened was where did he go? He went and saw one of the elders or something who showed them the book of Daniel, showed Alexander the book of Daniel, and read about him, about how great he was. And because of that, they're like, look, we're talking about you, because obviously they talk about how great he is. So from that point on, he left the Jewish people alone.
Interesting.
And when Antiochus, I forgot how, but when he fell, or I forgot what it was, but that's when he really took it out when he really took out his wrath on the Jews at that point.
Yeah.
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 Sacrificing.
Oh, when the Romans,
the
I think
pigs.
that's when the Romans came in and
Yes,
really defeated him. And then he
Yes.
went back and
just
like
made their
thousands,
life.
thousands of people he killed and
Yes.
sold as slaves. And oh, he was
Yes.
awful.
And
Yeah.
desecrated their altar with the pigs, and I mean just the whole thing. But immediately I remember, because I was watching something about Hitler and the Third Reich, and how he would purposely set their church on fire, and watch it just burning to the ground. And watching that footage, it just hurt my heart. Like it just,
Yeah.
I forgot where it was, but
Yeah.
there were so many concentration camps. I know Dachau, and I know obviously the most,
Auschwitz.
yeah,
Auschwitz. Yeah.
there were
Yeah.
so many others. Like, where did this name come from? Like, it's just crazy. So yeah, I've been a particular interest because I'm of German descent. My maiden name is Weibel, and my dad had told me, my real father told me, that his grandfather saw what was happening when Hitler was starting to come to power, and he's like, we're getting out of here. We're taking our farmer skills, and we are going to New Jersey. So that's where they went.
It's a good
To
idea.
Camden.
It was a good
To
idea.
Camden, New Jersey, when it was nothing but farmland for as far as you can see. I still remember the smell of my grandmother's farmhouse. I still remember it to this day. I haven't been there since I was 7 or 8, long time ago. But now I saw pictures of Camden. I don't even recognize it.
Oh.
I don't even know. So, but yeah, that's where they live. So yeah, and I guess for me, that's how, when I think of the evil that can happen to a people, I just look at this Antiochus and think, well, the closest I've seen of that is Hitler, and then of course there were other leaders that were just as evil, if not more so, in other countries. So that I'm sure you guys know a lot more.
You have Attila the Hun.
Yes,
I mean, you've got.
there's so
plenty of
many.
people. I mean,
so many.
once the Pax Romana was over and the Romans, their empire began to recede, then all these Visigoths came in, and I mean, it was just horrendous, overrunning these areas and so forth. I mean, I can't, that's part of history I have only, I know only a little bit about, but if you look at all these tribes and things like that came in and ran over the countryside. In fact, Germany had what they call was it the 100 Years' War, 30 Years' War? 30 Years' War, I think, started as a result of Martin Luther. the Protestants against the Catholics. And when I was dating Mary, and I went to they had a teachers college in the town of Worms, where I was stationed, she was living. And I went there just to learn German. I listened to the professor talking, and he said, "Knock." I don't know if I can say it, but he said it was fast unbewohnt, which means it was almost unpopulated because so many people have been killed in the area as a result of these wars.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. You know, it was either the 30 Years' War, 100 Years' War.
Mhm.
I can't recall, but this was back in like, when did Martin Luther was in 1500, so it would have been the late 1500s that this occurred. So if you can imagine such savagery
Mm.
going on in the name of religion, come on,
Right.
you know. So
Right. And you're right. And you know, it's funny you would say that, because even the Christians, we as Christians are not, you know, we were mean to the Jews too, you know, at one point.
yeah,
So there was,
absolutely,
you
absolutely.
know, as much as it just it hurts my heart. And, you know, I was reading the Bible in the Old Testament when I was very young as a teenager. And then I was watching the Passion, or, you know, Jesus Christ. And I remember going, well, yeah, I can see why, you know, how the Jews were being persecuted. I was like, yeah, look what they did to Jesus. And my mom just shook her head, and she's like, okay, just, you know. And I still remember thinking, oh, Joanna, what is wrong with you? But I was still, I mean, I was eating unleavened bread. I mean, I was following the whole, my mom was like, what is wrong? What is happening to you? I'm like, I'm in the book of something. I don't remember, but I was just trying to follow. I was trying to do right by God. And I go to church and ask all these questions, and they're like, what are you reading, Joanne? I go, I'm just trying to understand, you know. And but I was in Genesis and Exodus and Leviticus, and yeah, I was like, what is unleavened bread, Mom? And she's like, I have no idea. What are you talking about? There's bread in the cupboard. I just go eat the bread. And I'm like, it has to be unleavened. It has to be unleavened. Yeah, I was trying to be just the good, you know. Anyway.
Yeah.
But now I'm old enough now and mature enough now to understand, you know, Daniel would have been a book I would have been extremely scared to read.
Oh
you know,
yeah.
It's-
It's scary.
You know,
Yeah. As a young person, if you didn't have,
yes.
yeah, that's for sure.
And even so Jeremiah, because about, you know, the persecution of the Jews and the end of times, my understanding is in Jeremiah 30, verse 7, it talks about the time of Jacob's trouble, which has something to do with kind of quoting some of Daniel. And then Matthew 24:21, Jesus quoted something referring to Daniel as well, which I found was interesting. And in Romans chapter 11, it talked about, again, really referring more about Daniel and what what was shown to him, you know, through his dreams and through the angels that were sent down to, you know, that was sent down to help him understand and what was happening. So I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out because
No, really. Yeah, makes sense.
yeah, that's what you know, again, to me, it just solidifies the legitimacy of the Bible.
Sure.
It just solidifies, you know, this isn't just some great book. There's a reason that it was written for us to understand, you know, so that we would pay attention, you know.
Yes.
You're not just getting into heaven. You gotta, there's things you have to do and things you have to understand. So to me, that's how I took it. But okay, let's go to number 4.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Okay. All right. What adverse experience that the people of God, what adverse experience that the people of God would suffer is described in verses 31 to 35, printed above under question 2. According to verse 35, what is the one valuable result that would come from this experience? Verses 31 to 35 speak of the distressful times of adversity that would come upon the nation of Israel in the days of Antiochus Epiphanes, the king of Syria. The sanctuary would be profaned, the abomination that causes desolation, the abominable pagan image that would cause the sanctuary to be polluted and thereby defend God's holy presence would be erected. The godly in Israel would fall by the sword and by flames and be taken into captivity. A closer look at verses 31 to 35 reveals several ways the Lord employs adversity for the good of his people. For one thing, the Lord used this adversity to produce and refine Christian character in the lives of his people. Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's a broad statement. That's a broad statement.
Mhm.
If you don't have to, if it's easy to look back and say, oh, they were just refining, refining them, and produce Christian character. Well, as long as you're not the one that's having to be persecuted and in the middle of all those troubles, it's fine. But when you're the one that's just kind of looking from the outside looking in, oh no, this is sad. It's really sad.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand the workings of history, in that fashion.
Mhm.
But to know that God is always God, in the end, God is always in charge. That's probably the only thing that you can punctuate that with and have it make sense.
Right. Let me look at, I'm just trying to see.
But I don't see how you could, if you were going through it, I don't know how you could understand that this is the will of God.
Yeah.
That's hard for me.
Oh, me too.
I mean,
this suffering,
yeah,
how can it be the will of God? I mean, that there's,
Yeah.
this is, we could have probably a 3-week retreat talking about that.
Right. And I want to read that. So forces from him shall appear and profane the temple and fortress, and shall take away the regular burnt offering, and they shall set up the abomination that makes desolate. He shall seduce with flattery those who violate the covenant. But the people who know their God shall stand firm and take action. And the wise among the people shall make many understand, those for some days they shall stumble by sword and flame, by captivity and plunder. When they stumble, they shall receive a little help, and maybe shall join themselves to them with flattery. And some of the wise shall stumble, so that they may be refined, purified, and made white until the time of the end, for it still awaits the appointed time. Yeah. And my commentary talked about this, and I was still kind of, God will prevail, some will fall, and some will join him. I mean, that they will be made, they be refined, purified, and made white.
Yeah. And I think that's the word they're turning to as the wise, the people that held on, to the pure religion.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And by doing so, they were the suffering servant.
Right.
In this instance.
And it is, I mean, I think about that, for me, I mean, I'm a Christian through and through. And if people don't believe in that or don't, I'm not, I'm here to witness by action, witness by acknowledging my sins, making amends where I can, and if people don't believe that way or are more secular, I lift them up in prayer, I do those things, but it doesn't bother me. So, but if I were to be persecuted or slapped or spit upon or whatever, in the name of being attacked in whatever way for being a Christian, then that's the sword that I bear. That's okay. Because I'm not changing, I'm not going to change. And you put me in jail or whatever, God forbid that would ever happen in this country. But it does kind of scare me that there's more talk about you know, if you believe, if you have a faith in God, then somehow you are anti this or anti that. I'm thinking, like, I'll give you an example. If you watch the Super Bowl, there were the Super Bowl commercials, and there was one where there was hatred and all this, and it said, Jesus loves everybody. And
Oh,
it
yeah,
was this beautiful, but there was a certain person in Congress who really said, really, Jesus really loved all of them. And, I don't think so. And religious scholars had to educate that person and go, yeah, you might want to read the Bible. Being that you're a Catholic, you might want to reread it again. Cause yeah, he loved the people that hated him. He loved the people, you love all people. So it was just kind of interesting. And I thought, man, we've seen that commercial time and time again, and it kind of reminds me too, it's easy to love, as Father Leland says in his sermons all the time. It's easy to love people that love you back.
Sure,
It's
sure.
hard to love the ones who don't. That's what Jesus asked us to do. That's what he asked us to do. And in Daniel, we have to hold firm. We have to hold strong in him. Michael, the archangel, is coming down. He's going to help us out. He's going to help us out.
You have a contemporary example in the, boy, help me with my geography. But when you had ISIS, in the Middle East, okay, there are the Chaldean Christians,
yes,
that still remain in the Middle East. And it's the northern part of Iraq, Syria. I'm trying to recall what they call that people. But they're terribly persecuted, killed off, and you have to ask yourself, how would you feel if you were in that position?
Right. I mean, they're beheaded. They're dragged in the street. It's
Sure.
You're
Yeah.
right. And it's like,
Yeah.
if
Where people are killed, especially where you have this tension between, Islam and, radical Islam. I'm not saying
Right. Yeah.
radical Islam. That's, I want to couch it in those terms. Radical Islam and Christianity, or radical Islam and being Hindu, and radical Islam and being, Buddhist. There's no room in there for anybody else, in their way of thinking, and they will persecute you if they have the opportunity, because their way is the right way,
yeah,
when they get
Go
into
ahead.
control, it's all over,
Yeah, there was a movie way back, I can't remember, but it was Demi Moore, and she was pregnant, and it was, she had struggled with with attempting suicide and things like that, but she was carrying the second coming. She was carrying the baby that would save the world. And so there were the evil and the good that were kind of fighting, and there was but she was nervous because she's reading these, she's getting these signs, and she goes to meet a rabbi, and I guess she touches him, and like, no, you don't touch a rabbi, what is wrong with you? She's like, I'm a Christian, I don't know. And but they're talking about, she has these dreams or something, and there's this Roman soldier who says, would you die for him? And she's thinking it's about Jesus, and she doesn't, she's kind of goes in that, these dreams, she kind of goes into the shadow. But at the end here, as she gives birth, will you die for him? Would you die for him? And her son is born, he saves the world, and she dies after giving birth to him. And I think about, yeah, would you die for him?
Sure.
Yeah, I would die for him, but I'm not on my knees, and I don't have somebody with the hatchet next to me. And
Yeah. Right.
but yes,
Yeah.
I think that I just, because I look at the ladder, I'm like, I'm not going to denounce my faith. I can't even wrap my head around that. I can't even wrap my head around that. But I've never been in fear like that. I just don't see myself doing that, but I'm not in that position. And, and I think when we talked about it here about, when you pray with intent, and he will answer. He will be there with you. Even if in that darkness, if my head happens to get chopped off, or metaphorically speaking, I know that God will be with me as long as I do not forsake him.
Sure. Well, that's why we talked about last week about the Lord's Prayer and how go back to Matthew and how it's couched. The thing is it lead us not into temptation. Wrong. It says, bring us not to the time of trial. That's what they say. And bring us not to the time of trial. And that's the time of trial. Jesus is saying, he's telling you, he's telling you, ask God not to bring you to the time of trial where you're tempted or where you're put in a position where you're going to be persecuted. Don't bring me into this time of trial, this time of suffering. Bring me not into the time of trial. And I think, if I think about the Lord's Prayer like that, it makes a lot more sense.
Yes, it does. It does.
You're absolutely right. Every time we pray the Lord's Prayer, don't put me in that position, Lord, please. Please don't put me in that position,
Right. And if I am put in that position or something similar to it, what I get very, the God testing us. I don't know. I don't like that phrase at all.
Yeah.
I don't see God, being passive aggressive.
Playing games like that.
I just don't. Yeah. It's just it doesn't sit well with me, but I think about, in those moments when, I had lost my train of thought, but I just lost it. Oh, I just lost it.
Joanna, you're too young to lose your train of thought. Pam and I have an excuse.
We're doing things to her.
You're way too young. Don't do that.
I appreciate that. I really, really.
She's seen too many Tuesday nights with these two old folks.
I love this time. But I know that there's something I'm supposed to learn in this, when those moments come where what is happening right now, and, to turn to him. And as Swindoll, I always forget his first name. He's a famous writer, Christian writer. And he says, things happen sometimes in our lives and God's trying to get your attention.
That's right. Yeah.
He's trying to get your attention.
That's right.
And I look at this book and I think he's trying to get our attention.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And this Antioch Epiphanes was a precursor to the one who was going to come even more vile than him.
Yeah.
And it talks about the foreshadowing of the leader to come. And the Antichrist will be, whoever this leader is, will be the one that he exalts himself. He puts himself, just as Antioch did, he made himself, put himself on that altar, but even more so than what Antioch did. So that part, but he will not, this person will not prevail. But like Hitler, where we talked earlier about it happened so quickly. And I think with this world leader, this charismatic, what will our livelihood look like wherever this person comes from, not necessarily America, but maybe somewhere else, where people will just really be mesmerized and captivated by this person. And then it's going to be people like you and I going, can you not see the writing on the wall? I'm like, I need to go back to, oh my gosh, Daniel, 11.
There he is.
This.
Well, they said that Antioch's was, it sounded like it could be very charismatic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He flattered people, you know.
What he did is that he evidently, the part of the Jewish population, and I can't recall what part it talks about here. I don't want to refer to it right now. I will lose my thought.
Yeah, don't hang on.
I'll do that.
Keep going.
The thing is that he ingratiated himself among the Jews that were Hellenistic. That is, that they were Greek thinking,
Mhm.
you know, and that was.
And he put that in when he did erect his own temple, he didn't put himself in there. He put the Greek god in there.
Zeus, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Zeus, yeah.
So
Smart.
So so he put the Greek god in there. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah. Very
desecration.
smart.
So so he ingratiated himself among the Jews that were tending towards Greek theory and philosophy and living, you know. And then
Yeah.
and then the wise were the other people, you know, that aid with Jewish,
With their faith, yeah.
with the true Jewish faith. They were the maintainers of the faith.
Mhm.
You know, we're going to be misled.
So you read that and you think, you hope that you will be that strong.
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
And you won't be hoodwinked. You won't be, you
Yeah.
know, taken in by somebody like that.
Sure. Well, the thing
And
is, if you look at, just think we're learning something tonight, because the thing is, if we see someone that in our contemporary life or in recent history or whatever, who consider themselves to be a god, is that person not an example of the Antichrist?
Yes, right.
Sure.
You know, is that person, you know, I mean, wherever it happens,
Yeah.
is, you know, you know, pre-war Japan was emperor worship. That got them into a lot of trouble. You know, that
Sure
got
did.
the nation into a lot of trouble. So, you know, they're certainly past that now, but for a period of time, it was resulted in some bad consequences for Japan in the Second World War. So,
And they fell.
yeah, and so this is good advice here. You know, you see somebody that puts himself above God, a person that puts himself above God, watch out. That could be your Antichrist. And if you get the Antichrist there, you're headed for trouble.
Yes. Yes, I guess we can look at it one of two ways. Like, I guess this is, you know, in the end, we're going to live forever. You know, we're gonna go to heaven and be there, and you know, and that's one place I'm excited to go. And at the same time, I want to enjoy myself down here.
Sure.
You know, so it's like, you know, that's the part where this is my time, and you know.
Yeah. Just when I got my house remodeled. Come on.
Right. Oh my gosh, I have to tell you. So before we read number 5, so I have a TV, a big TV downstairs, and we got like a sound system or something to it, and there's 2 separate remotes, and so I was turning one remote off and the other one was already off, and so I'm finishing up some stuff in my kitchen, and then I hear this sound saying, "Are you ready?" I was like, what was that? And I know what I heard, like, "Are you ready?" And I thought, is this my time? Like, okay. So because I didn't know what was happening. And so I'm looking and I'm going, okay, is this what people hear when they're going to die in their sleep or something? So I came up and I said my prayers and I just said, okay, if it's my time, it's my time. You know, and I kissed my kids and I kissed my husband and I went to sleep. And then I woke up and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm just crazy. I don't know. So I went downstairs and you know, went on about my day. And then a couple weeks later, it happened again, but I just turned the TV off and it was repeating something. It was just like the sound system was delayed. And I thought, oh, okay. Well, but I thought I was really proud of myself in that I just said, okay, I went into acceptance and I said, if that's what it's going to be, then, I know it sounds so silly, but I said, it's just how it happens, it's just how it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And honestly, like yesterday was the 3rd anniversary of my brother passing away, and he had died. He had a heart attack when he was driving. He was in a parking lot and nobody got hurt, but he passed away very suddenly. And nobody, he was 59. Nobody saw that coming. And so I think about how precious life is and how short it can be in a situation like that. And, when he passed away, I loved him and he knew that. He loved me and I knew that. And one thing that we shared was the Chiefs, watching the Kansas City game. And so, when they won the Super Bowl, I thought, oh my gosh, he is rejoicing in heaven right now. He probably has a new Super Bowl 57 on his hat, on his, head, and just dancing around my grandparents and, just having a good time. And, but it was kind of that moment where I just sort of sat with it anyway. So because of that, I with that noise, I just didn't know where it came from. And I thought, wow, okay. I didn't think it was a ghost. I just thought it was something. So, it was kind of silly, but at the same time, I don't think I've even shared that with my husband because he would say, what? It's like, you're crazy. You're a crazy lady. I'm like, well, okay. But I wasn't, I didn't stay up all night. I wasn't worried, I just said, okay, maybe it's my time. I'm ready. So, anyway.
You were just practicing.
I was, see?
Practicing.
Maybe it was a test. Maybe it was a test.
This is a test.
That's right.
What a great way to feel, though, that you're ready.
Absolutely, yeah.
Really, we're laughing about it, but
Yeah, and I think about all the people, the good, wonderful people that have passed away, like Sue, just had an eye injury or what, she went to McKinney, Texas. I'll never forget when she said, whatever you do, don't live in that place. It is flat. It is ugly. It is, I guess she went there and that's when she caught whatever it was in her eye and she was in the hospital and she's like, they gave me a window, I could see out the window and there's nothing to see. An ugly place. And I was going to move there. And I always think about her. I'm like, yeah, I'm not moving to McKinney, Texas. So, but for her, when she had passed away and that she was okay, I'm ready to go. I'm like, oh, wow, how brave. That's such a brave person, but she knew where she was going, and I think with the book of Daniel, it's a true testament of know where you're going.
Sure.
Know where you're going. I'm not, I'm showing you about this terrible man here, but that's just a precursor of what's to come in the end of times. And so be ready and know that I will save you. I am an entity of my word. My word is my bond and I will be there. But you got to do your part by believing unconditionally that that's the truth. And so, yeah, my understanding is that Daniel chapter 11 is one of those chapters that the scholars go back and forth because some believe that it was written beforehand and some people think it was written after the fact, that they just put it on paper and that, and I happen to believe that that it was divine, that Daniel was that this book was written, hundreds of years before it actually happened. So that's just me. So, okay. So number 5. I think you are up.
Who, me, Dale?
No, Dale.
Me? Oh,
So,
I lost.
right, Dale? Is it you, Dale, or is it me? We did 4.
I did
right?
4.
You
Oh,
just
then
said-
it's me.
That is
Okay.
you. I'm sorry. Okay,
Okay.
okay, my fault.
Okay, according to verse 34 printed below, what will the people of God receive as they find themselves falling before their ruthless persecutors? Will the final outcome of this assistance prove to produce beneficial or adverse results? Now, as they fall, they will receive a little help, and many shall join themselves with them, but not sincerely. In verse 34, we are told that in the midst of their adversity, the people of God were helped with a little help, a reference to the Maccabees. At Modin, a village west of Jerusalem, there lived an elderly priest named I looked it up how to say it now, I can't remember. Thank you. Thank you. When he was ordered by the Assyrian official to offer a pagan sacrifice, he killed the official, tore down the altar, and together with his sons fled into the hills. The story is related in 1 Maccabees 2:15-28. After his death in 166 BC, the son Judas
There you go.
oh
There
gosh,
you go.
using guerrilla tactics, won a number of brilliant victories over the Syrians. But note that the deliverance by the Maccabees is described as being only a little help. Due to their successful military campaigns, the Maccabees would find that many Jews would be converted to their cause, but not sincerely converted to the Lord. This deliverance would soon degenerate into worldly goals and self-ambition. It started out, this is so sad. It started out as a revolt to purify the land of pagan influence. Eventually, it degenerated into corruption and self-ambition. The descendants of the Maccabees established a monarchy that was little different from the pagan nations around them. It's so sad to see.
Yeah, you know, it's almost like a politician who joins, who gets in the fight to
Yes.
represent the people and be a voice, and then fall in love with the power, and then it
Yep,
becomes
Yeah,
Yep.
they
exactly.
they
Yeah.
just become something else. Mhm.
else. Yep, yep.
Yeah,
Just
that's
all goes to
Yep,
hell in a handbasket. Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's what that reminds me of. Any thoughts on that before we jump into the last 13 verses of 12? Let me find it. I'm in the next one to use my phone. Come on, where are you? What happened? I just clicked on them. Hold on. It doesn't want to show it to me. Okay. Okay, let me see. Come on. Okay. Exploring. All right. Would you like me to read number one?
Want me to read it?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Either, yeah, you or me, whichever. It's okay with me. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. All right. Number one, describe the character of the Antichrist as it is revealed in Daniel 11:36-39, printed below. Note verses 36-45 of Daniel 11 are speaking about the person and describing an event that shall occupy a place at the end of history, but they are described in Old Testament terminology. That is to say, people and places familiar with the Old Testament people of God are employed as models to describe the future people, and employed as models to describe future people and places and events. The king will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god and will speak astonishing things against God, against the God of gods. He will be successful until the indignation has been accomplished. For what has been determined will take place. He will show no reverence for the gods of his fathers, nor will he have a natural desire for women, nor will he reverence any god, for he will magnify himself above all things. Instead of them, he will honor the God of fortresses, a God whom his fathers did not know. He will honor with the gold and silver. and priceless jewels and all sorts of treasures. He will attack the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign god, and he will greatly honor those who acknowledge him. He will make them rule over many people and will distribute lands as a reward. Okay, verses 36 and 39 reveal the character of the Antichrist and his empire, especially his defiance of God. Verse 36 describes blasphemous pride, having exalted himself among men and having successfully magnified himself above the idols of men. He shall foolishly speak against God himself. 2 Thessalonians 2-4. Verse 37 describes his unnatural affections. He shall have no loyalty to his ancestral religion. He shall be devoid of all human desires and affections, having no desire for women. He shall be devoid of any conventional religious allegiances. He shall not regard any God. He shall not regard any God. He shall make an idol out of himself, magnifying himself above all. Verses 38-39 describe his religion. He shall reverence might and worship power, as seen by his honoring the God of fortresses. But there shall be a personality, a spirit, a God that he worships, a God whom his father did not know. He will be in league with the devil. He shall conquer apparently unconquerable fortifications with the help of a foreign God, the devil himself.
Ooh, yeah, that's a heavy one.
That is.
No?
Yeah. And I, because there were people who thought when there's let's see, where did you say it? Verse 37 describes his unnatural affections. He shall have no loyalty to his ancestral religion. So some people think that he might be of Jewish descent. He shall be devoid of all natural human desires and affections, having no desire for women. So some people like what the thought, well, is he homosexual or, but at the same, but the commentary said it's more like Jesus, where the way that Jesus was, where he had affection for everybody, but as far as, he didn't date, he didn't have relations with women, but he didn't have relations with men either. So he was just a man on a mission. I mean, he was here put on earth.
Sure. Yeah.
So kind of in that way, except on the opposite side, not with God, but with the
devil. Yeah. Joanna, I read the same thing because just exactly what you just said. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I just go back to Hitler, where, his face was everywhere, and, he didn't really date. I mean, he married somebody, but there's so much around that. I mean, he was such an evil person, but I think he was so evil that you were like, even his energy, there was fear, whereas with this person, I think it's going to be much savvier, I think it's going to be much more attractive to people in that way.
That's what it sounded like to me when you read about him, that he was really a very savvy guy. I mean, vile, they called him vile, but he knew what he was doing, boy.
Yes. And, a god of fortresses. So he's attracted to power, but but military might, but make no mistake, he will be a tyrant. Before it's like almost like we don't even realize what's happening until we do.
Yeah. Till you're right in it.
Yep. Till you're right in it. But in the end, the Antichrist will fail and fall, just like Antiochus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
His desire for power was all consuming. Everything else went by the wayside, I was reading in my commentary, it said fortresses. It said the Hebrew text of this verse is garbled and the meaning is unclear, but it seems to refer to the Acra in Jerusalem, which was occupied by foreign troops. Evidently this was his garrison, in Jerusalem. So he was occupied by this, this desire for, overpowering and conquering.
So do I read number 2? Am I up now?
Yeah, it's a good short one, but that we were saving that one for you.
We're- So
I should
how
do
will
number
the
2.
Antichrist and his rule affect the people of God? See Daniel 12:1b. There will be a time of trouble, such as has not happened from the beginning of nations until then. But at that time, your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book, shall be delivered. As Daniel 12:1b indicates, such intensely demonic opposition to God and his truth will be the occasion for extremely hard times for the people of God. But as this verse goes on to assure us, the people of God shall not perish. On the contrary, in God's appointed time, they shall be delivered. But you're going to have to hold fast.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you imagine? I can't even
Mm-mm,
imagine.
mm-mm.
I can't even imagine.
But you know, probably because we live in America, and
Yeah.
we have never been through what so many people have been through in other
Uh-huh.
countries.
Mhm,
Sure.
We
Sure.
really haven't.
mhm.
We've never been tested like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We
Right.
never been through the time of trial.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about, the young Marines that we had one who was from another country. I don't know if he was Russian, but I forgot where he was from. But he said, I used to have to wait in line for hours just for a can of coffee. I was like, what? And you didn't go to the store? He's like, we don't. First time I went to the grocery store here, I almost lost my mind. I'm like, you get to you just have pick whatever you want.
Sure.
Like
Sure.
he could not get over. He's like, you have no idea how, because he would tell Marines, you have no idea how free you are. You have no idea. He would get upset because he said, you just have no idea what other places in other countries, what they have to do just to do what you do and don't even think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, wow. And I remember another time when there was a ship of Russia that came, it was in early 90s. And we sponsored a Russian soldier, a Russian, they were Navy. And we said, okay, what do you want? Me and this other sergeant, we said, we'll get you whatever you want. What do you want that's American? He's like, I want a pair of Jordan, the Jordan basketball shoes. Really?
Sure.
Yes. Size 12 or whatever it was. I said,
Yeah.
okay. And
Yeah.
we went out and got him these shoes, and you would thought he won the lottery.
Yeah.
Thought he won the lottery. And all I wanted in return was I wanted I have it in a plastic bag to this day. They had like a little flag, just a little flag that was from the ship, and then a Russian cigarette.
Oh.
I just wanted, because they smoked the cigarettes all the way to the nub. I'm like, wow, there's no filter or anything. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But their clothes were so thick, and they're like, I thought it was really good quality. And I said, and I'm like, can I have your hat? And he goes, you cannot have my hat, but I'll give you my flag. I said, okay. So he gave me this flag, and it wasn't a Russian flag, but it was the ship, and it was just a really cool. But I've wrapped it up. I've had it there. I haven't even opened it in 30 years. So it's just such a cool thing. But I'll never forget, he wanted Nike Jordan high tops.
Sure.
And we could just walk in the store, and what was $150 at that time? It was really expensive, but back then. And it was just so amazing. It was just so amazing. So yes, you are absolutely right. Yeah. And I want to go to other countries just to experience, like, I think it was, and you might know this better than me, as far as going to Ireland, when I think we were like, yeah, maybe we'll live in Ireland one day or something. And I'm like, I don't know if I could. I know they talk the different dialect of English, so okay. But they said, their homes are not like American homes, or their refrigerators. Like we have these big refrigerators. They have like these little, you can't just get like a gallon of milk and put it in. They said the things are much smaller, and life is just a little different there. And I thought, I don't know if I want to. It sounds so silly, but just those little things, would I have to stand in line to get lemon juice or something. I mean, I don't know. But, and again, Dale, you've lived over there and experienced, things a little differently. So you might be able to speak better, more intelligently to it, but I like America. I mean, I was only in Japan, and that was quite, I kissed the ground when I came back. As much as it was interesting for that year I was there, I appreciated our country so much more than I ever, and I fell in love with country music because it represented America over there. Garth Brooks. So I
Sure,
was like, I'm not listening to country. And then as soon as Garth Brooks came on, I was like, and they love Elvis. They loved him over there. It was crazy. They had this karaoke and everybody would sing Elvis. I was like, he passed away in the 1970s. It's 15 years. We have a lot of good people. You like a Beach Boys? I'm like, Beach Boys? Oh my gosh, crazy stuff. But you're right. We do have many, many wonderful things. And I hope that with that, there's gratitude and there's the gratefulness of having a faith that, has, I think, created a lot of this for us here in America, in the United States. So I just hope that we can see it. If it comes at our time, that we'll see it,
Sure.
and maybe that's the reason that we're looking at Daniel, to kind of look at some people that like this people over in Germany when Hitler was coming in. They saw the writing on the wall saying, this guy's talking a good game. He's saying a lot of nice things, but look what's happening. You've got Jews are not allowed, like, don't buy anything, they're standing. You have young children who were the Hitler youth that were standing in front of these stores telling people to go, like kids, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, it was just crazy. And he's just maybe the fingernail of Antiochus.
Sure.
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, yes. So I know we are running late, but we want to finish this, or what do you guys want to do?
Well, we're getting close here.
Okay.
We're not,
Okay.
Number 3, right? Okay.
Are
What
we on number
question does
3? Yes,
Daniel
we are.
hear? Yeah. Number
Okay.
3, is that? Yeah.
Yep.
What
that's
question
correct.
does Daniel hear the man ask, and what answer does he receive? What do you think this means? One of them asked the man dressed in linen who was standing above the waters of the river, how long will it be before these wonders are fulfilled? The man clothed in linen who was standing above the waters of the river lifted up his right hand and his left hand toward heaven. And I heard him swear by him who lives forever, it shall be a time, times, and half a time. When they have finished breaking into pieces the power of the holy people, all these things will be accomplished. In verse 6, Daniel hears an angel ask the question that no doubt was foremost in his own mind. How long will it be before these wonders are fulfilled? Do I have the right date? Come to pass, and when shall they end? The Lord responds by declaring, it shall be a time, times, and half a time. Daniel 7:25, which defines the reign of the Antichrist as a time and times and half a time. This is so confusing to me. The point is that this final epitome of rebellion against God must appear, it must advance, and then it shall finally be destroyed. Note that the Lord does not provide any actual date as to the duration or termination of this period of time when the final Antichrist shall be permitted to reign. The Lord merely answers, these things must happen, and when they have run their course, they will be terminated.
So my understanding is times, and half a times is 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish
So
they'd
for-
say that.
Yeah, exactly. So 3.5 years they
Yes.
have to go through this. And that's what my understanding is, that Antichrist comes, he's kind of doing his thing for 3.5 years, and then Jesus comes and it gets put to an end.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Mhm.
And wow. And I think about how will people how will people run? How will people, I just, yeah. But you know what? Jerusalem is still hanging out. They're still there. They're still doing their thing. So I'm, once they go down, I'm like, okay, now I know that's the sign. To me, that's the sign. So, Drew, we're still supporting them. They're still okay. And okay, did Netanyahu get re-elected? Didn't he get re-elected, Netanyahu?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's in some problems though.
Mhm.
Okay.
Nevertheless,
is.
I think that this is a good thing because, we again, we're seeing, that I think that where it says the last sentence there, the Lord merely answers, these things must happen. And when they have run their course, they will be terminated.
Mhm.
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 And
Yes.
that's not for us to know.
Yeah,
Right.
right,
Right.
right.
It's just for us to believe and to have
Right.
faith that they will be terminated.
So when you see something going on that's, say, you do your best to try to make things right, but when it goes beyond your hands, you say, okay, it's going to run its course, and in the Lord's good time, it's going to be terminated.
Oh,
What, I mean, what else can you do as a human being,
right. It's almost like a hurricane or something, it's coming through and you take cover and you do your best you can, but you're going to be delivered from it, which is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Marion told me that she has a friend from school, and he was getting in bad shape. He had his kind of like, I mean, in Germany, they have a lot of news coming through, about Ukraine and everything else. I mean, Ukraine is right pretty close,
Right.
So all this negative news coming across and so forth, and he was really, mentally
Hmm.
adversely affected by all this negative information coming in, and so he had to, he's trying to take steps to get away from that so he can, come back to some sense of normalcy.
Mhm.
You can, I mean, we all get concerned about things, but there's a some point in time where you just can't do anything about it.
Right. Yeah. And hearing all the calamity that's happening right now, what's Russia doing? What's China doing? And we have this balloon floating around, and it's like, it's
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, is there going to be some bomb that comes by? Like, what's going to happen? And so I'm thinking, we're in Fallbrook, Temecula. I don't think we're really a place of interest right now. If I was in Washington, D.C., I might be a little more nervous, but,
Yeah.
but again, what control do we have? We don't.
We don't.
All we can do is,
Really don't.
I'll take up a weapon and fight if I have to protect my family. So that's what I'll do. But other than that, I digress. So what is down? Who's next? I'm sorry.
Oh, is it my turn
I
to
think
read?
I think it's your turn, unless you want to do the last one.
What is Daniel told in chapter 12, verses 11 to 12? What is the lesson being conveyed to us? From the time the daily service is taken away and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is the one who waits and comes to the end of the 1,335 days. In verses 11, 12 of chapter 12, it is again impressed upon Daniel that the events described in chapter 11, 36 to 39 must be fulfilled, and the people of God must persevere to the end. Daniel is told, blessed is the one who waits and comes to the end of the 1,335 days. Once again, the numbers are symbolic, and the emphasis is on the need for perseverance. There is the need to persevere through the tribulation and persevere until the deliverance. Even though the time may seem to be endless, 1,290 days expire, but the wait must continue another 45 days. So in my view, he's right on when he says, once again, the numbers are symbolic.
Yeah.
This is on the need for perseverance. There is the need to persevere through tribulation and persevere until deliverance, even though the time may seem to be endless. There, I think he hits it right on the head there in terms of interpretation of that.
It is that 45 days when Jesus comes, and you know, what I you know,
Yeah.
it's a lot of speculation.
That's
That's
a lot. That's a lot of speculation. You know, that's the theme for our next retreat.
yes. So what assurance is given to the people of God in Daniel 12:1, 3 and 7? At that time, Michael, the great prince who protects your people, will stand up. There will be a time of trouble such as has not happened from the beginning of nations until then. But at that time, your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book, shall be delivered. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the heavens, and those who turn many to righteousness shall shine like the stars forever and ever. The man clothed in linen, who was standing above the waters of the river, lifted up his right hand and his left hand toward heaven. And I heard him swear by him who lives forever, it shall be for a time, times and half a time. When they have finished breaking into pieces the power of the holy people, all these things will be accomplished. In verse 1, see, the Lord assures Daniel that at the appointed time, his people shall be delivered. In verse 7, the Lord solemnly swears that the time of tribulation shall not extend beyond the designated period, and the deliverance shall come, at which time the redeemed shall be raised to everlasting life, and they shall shine like the brightness of the heavens. And, you know, when I think about it, maybe in those 45 days here's your chance, you know, to get to, you know, to redeem yourself, or, you know, I don't know, you know, he gives us every opportunity to understand what's really happening, and how many of us will see it and believe it, or, you know, turn to him. I don't know. You know, it could be that, I don't know, kind of that purgatory.
I read in one commentary, though, that this was one of the first mentions of heaven and hell.
Mhm.
It was saying that before, everyone went to Sheol. Everyone, regardless of you're good or
Right.
bad, you go to Sheol. Okay, and so this is one of the first mentions of, you know, in the book of life. You know, multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. So if we think back of all of our studies and so forth, you know, this is one of the first references to everlasting life. And I just thought that was an interesting,
Yeah.
as the thinking developed, you know, where they're thinking about that now, you know, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah,
so I thought that was a really interesting observation on the
it
part of
is.
that person that wrote that.
Yes. And very hopeful, you know, I mean,
Absolutely,
that's,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
We just hope that you're enrolled in the book of life. You know, the whole thing.
Yeah.
yeah, I hope my name's up there.
Yeah, that's
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, but he sees our heart, right? The God sees our heart. He sees what's in our heart.
absolutely.
So, you know, we could do all these works, but have no heart, you know, and that's, you know, those who were, and he talked about that. He talked about that today, and, you know, they're doing right, but with the wrong intent, kind of a thing.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah. Good point. Very good
So,
point. Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah.
yeah, it was a very interesting chapter, both of them. And, you know, it was scary, but it was also hopeful. So
Sure.
it just packed in with a lot of things. And I'm looking forward to see what next book we read that will either, you know, kind of act as in context to Daniel. I don't know which one that would be, but I'm sure, Dale, that you will let me know.
I'm giving it
As
some
you
thought.
do.
I'm giving it some thought because I was thinking about this whole thing, and I said, you know, I don't want this Holy Happy Hour Bible study to be a club. I mean, we're pretty good group now, you know, but I'd like to have other people join,
Yes.
but it's, you know, it's difficult because studying things like this it's not easy, you know. I mean, you got to think about
If
it.
you're going to get something out of it, you got to spend a little extra time.
Spend some extra
I
time.
mean, at least I do. No, I shouldn't say that. I have to spend extra
That's
time
true.
because I read this and I don't know what I'm reading. I have to go to the commentaries,
Sure.
sentence by sentence.
So I don't know how to try to make it easier for people. You know, I just, you know, I got
It's not supposed to be easy,
no, it's really, you know, it's really not.
you know?
It's really not. It's,
I
you
mean,
know,
I think that we have, I mean, you went up and you have gone up in front of the church and you've given, you know, examples and metaphors and, you know, and I try to make it funny. It's a real page turner and they just,
yeah, you know,
Yeah.
and some people just, you know, don't place any value in that. But the thing is, if we were a larger church, if, you know, okay, so we got 20 people showing up and 3 of them, you know, are in the Bible study. Well, if we had 40 people, 6 would be in there. If we had 60 people, you know, you'd have
Right.
9, you know.
right.
So the thing
But
is,
I bet they get a good turnout for the soup suppers.
yeah. Well, you know, the thing
I
is,
mean,
if you look at
I
the,
hope so.
that is not something, those are your personal beliefs. They're based more on your personal beliefs and how you respond in God's kingdom,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
It's not, yes, it's biblical, but it's not line by line biblical like what we're working on.
see, I like this better.
Yeah, I do too. I
I mean, this is, yeah.
I mean, I really enjoy it. And you know,
I really do too.
it can be really intimidating, but wow, there's just so much now that, you know, when we read things, I'm like, wait a minute, I've heard that before. Oh wait, that was Isaiah. We
oh
read
yeah.
that in
Oh
Isaiah.
yeah.
You
But
know, I
that's what's
really
so
like that.
exciting
Yeah.
that you
Yes.
are, for me, because this is so new to me. And
Yeah.
just the last 2 years I've been doing this. And now I'm starting to say, I've read that before. I've heard
Exactly.
that before.
Love it.
Yeah.
It
You're-
just feels right. So do you have an idea of where you want to go?
I
from
was
the-
thinking about going into one of the, you know, Richmond does some of Paul's letters.
Okay.
And I was thinking about a New Testament letter, like he's got one to the Corinthians and one to the Galatians, you know. And you know, I'm just thinking out loud now, you know, Paul suffered a lot of frustrations. You know, he talks about
Yes.
stupid Galatians, you know. And maybe I just was thinking, I said, you know, maybe we should look at this and say, you know, we're going to, you know, as Christians, we're going to, and as Christians, evangelical, you know, I would say evangelical Christians, if I might call Episcopalians that, you know,
Mhm. Yes.
we're going to suffer a lot of frustrations with people.
Mhm.
And Paul sure had his share, you know, and, you know, maybe there's some lessons to be learned from that. I'm just kind of like, I'm just thinking out loud now, you know, might be something to have a look at because we've been in the Old Testament for a little while now.
Mhm.
I was thinking, and I do like Paul because he's pre-gospel, you know, he's writing before the time the Gospels were written, you know, so you're really getting a good look at the early church, you know. So I have to think a little bit about it, you know.
I mean, I like both of them.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why Galatians is speaking more to me than Corinthians. I love Corinthians, but
Sure.
Galatians is one where, you know, it's speaking a little bit more. So
I'm going to
then
read
you've got
over,
Ephesians
read over
and-
what he's done and have a look at that. And then I might just kind of couch it in those words. I said, you know, have a little powwow with some of the people that have been in it before and say, we're really interested in, you know, how the church functions and, you know, how we persevere through things, you know, like Paul did. So
Mhm.
let's have a look at
And
that.
And you might be surprised, we might generate more interest in Bible study because I think there's a lot of people that like Paul.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think
yeah,
I think the
they
New- I
like
think
the
the
New
Old
Testament.
Yeah.
yeah, the Old Testament is just, you know, there's a lot of intimidation
Yeah.
there because you know, you just getting past all the big words, the big Archimedes, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, you know, Antiochus, you know, Nefertiti, like, I was like, oh my gosh. And we try
Yeah.
so hard, and
Yeah.
I like Paul,
Yeah.
Matthew, Luke. Okay, I can do that, you know.
The simple
If
stuff.
you would see me on the computer with it, how do you pronounce such and such? And then then it tells me. And so then I try and say it. Then I say it again. Okay, I got it. And then
Yeah.
a
And
day later,
and we
I can't say it.
it's just a word salad. It's like, okay, we know who I'm talking about. Yes, we do. Okay. So, but it has been a pleasure. So we
It has
have
been a great pleasure.
40
It has been-
days, you know, and I can say hallelujah that it was wonderful. See, I can't say
Oh,
that
yeah.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
but
And you've
today I
been-
can. So
Joanna, you've done such a wonderful job.
It was terrific. Thank you so
all
much.
of it, this was a joint effort. You know, we all looked things up. We all talked about it, you know, so thank you. And this has been, yeah, it really has been enjoyable. And I'm, you know, I'm looking forward to going into church tomorrow at noon and getting me at my ashes and, you know, starting off, you know, on a good foot. And
I
it
got
feels
them all
good.
burned and ground up for you. Took 'em in
Okay.
this
So
morning.
I will, so I'll see you guys tomorrow at noon if you're going to be there. So,
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks
Tomorrow.
again.
Good night. Good night.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Good night.